We are exactly a month away from week one in college football and just a couple of weeks away from finding out who's number one in college football. While we wait on the AP poll, we get the CP prediction poll. Chip Patterson's prediction for how that AP preseason poll is going to look. Arch Manning's Texas Longhorns number one. They are the preseason favorite to win the SEC and the national title. The defending champion Ohio State Buckeyes number two. If it plays out this way, it would be number one going to number two in week one, Texas at Ohio State. Let's get Chip Patterson in here. Danny Kanell is joining us as well, and we're going to start at the top. Mention Texas, Ohio State 1-2, but Penn State has been the talk of the offseason from a lot of our analysts, a lot of college football experts. Many believe that what they bring back gives them the best roster in the country. Why don't you think they'll be ranked that way, Chip?
I think that in terms of raw talent, whether you use the blue chip ratio, 24/7 sports rankings, you're still dealing with Texas and Ohio State teams that probably on raw talent would have a little bit of an edge. But what they don't have an edge on for Penn State is in terms of returning production. So my prediction here is that when we look at those top three, remember, all three of those teams in the college football playoff semifinals 1 year ago, that it is for Penn State what they are bringing back in terms of mature production, but with Texas and Ohio State, something that's been built up year over year over year. You know, Steve Sarkisian, every single offseason has set a new school record for NFL drafts coming out of that Longhorns program. And with all of the appeal of Arch Manning, that's where I think the AP voters are going to give a slight edge. But you mentioned that season opener, Chris. I think Texas and Ohio State and Penn State will all receive first place votes. I just think that we might have a little bit of a split with Ohio State, Penn State that allows the Longhorns to have the edge. But those three, I think that's that top tier when it comes to the voters' opinions.
Come on, Chip. Just say the conspiracy theory out loud. Just tell them that it's the TV networks are just in there pounding those AP voters with propaganda, and that's why we have the 1-2 matchup on national television. I agree with everything you said. I do think it'll be really interesting. The most important thing, and I think this is the most exciting thing about college football this season, there will be multiple teams receiving first place votes, and it won't be just one or two. It'll be three and possibly even 4 or 5. Like, I think you're going to see a lot of people maybe even stretch that envelope and put it out, maybe put a Clemson at one because of what they return, maybe put Bama there because of their pedigree, Georgia there because of their pedigree. But ultimately, I do feel like Penn State is that team I would probably put at number one because of all the returning production. But the bottom line is, I think this is great for college football, and I think the AP Top 25 is just going to be the first example of something we're going to see all season long. There is no very clear-cut favorite anywhere across the college football landscape.
Georgia and Bama round out what Chip believes the top 5 is going to look like. Danny, you mentioned Clemson. Chip has them at 6. Why do you think they should be higher?
So I think they'll be higher because there's only, speaking of favorites, all the Power 4 conference favorites are pretty tight. There's not a clear-cut one except for Clemson. So, like, if you went across the board and felt like, all right, which team do I feel very confident that at least is going to make the college football playoff and win their conference, it would be Clemson. They've got Cade Klubnik back. We just had our Cover 3 Heisman draft. I took him number 1 off the board because I think we've seen a body of work that is super impressive. A postseason run last year in the ACC championship game and in the playoffs that was pretty impressive. So I feel like the combination of them going out, getting a new defensive coordinator in Tom Allen, who came from Penn State, bringing back several guys on the defense that are probably going to be first rounders along the defensive line. I feel like Clemson might get a little bit more love nationally and pop in the top 5, maybe even squeeze in that top 4 of the preseason rankings.
Yeah, number 6 is lower than I will have them on my CBS Sports 136 ballot. I consider Clemson to be worthy with everything they bring back of being a little bit closer to number 1 than they are number 10. What informed this decision is the disrespect that the AP voters have had for this Clemson program. Last year, they finished at 14. That was 3 spots lower than where the coaches had them. They put them at 20 the year before that, 13 the year before that. The last time that the AP Top 25 voters have put Clemson in the final top top 25, even though this is a program that has continued to churn out double-digit win seasons, goes all the way back to 2020 when Trevor Lawrence was still on the team. And so I'm looking at this and just thinking that the AP voters might be a little bit late to the party in terms of Clemson and its ceiling. That's where you might go with the Georgia, the reigning SEC champs, maybe in Alabama with the course correction, because the Tigers, don't forget, were not a part of the college football playoff picture until Nolan Hoser nails a 63-yard field goal as time expires right there in the ACC championship game. So I'm going to say that Clemson being at number 6 is my prediction, not my opinion.
Danny said that he thinks the gap from the favorite in a Power 4 conference to a team that could beat them is as wide in the ACC as any. But, Chip, in your predicted rankings, Clemson's only a handful of spots ahead of Miami. You have Miami at 10. But, again, this is how you think it's going to shake out. And you told us you think Miami's going to be in the top 10 because, quote, people are stupid. Please elaborate.
Whoa.
I wish we could show all the notes. I want to see all the notes because there's some really good ones in there, Chip.
Oh, okay, yeah. So anyway, this is going to be overrated. This is going to be a Miami program that has so much talent that is going to end up getting pushed to the top because you're excited about Carson Beck and you're excited about everything that we saw from this Miami offense last season. But I'll tell you what. It's not just a lack of Cam Ward. It's a lack of Xavier Restrepo. It's a lack of Jacoby George. It's a lack of Isaiah Horton. It's a lack of Elijah Arroyo. It's a lack of Sam Brown. Those players play for the Titans, the Panthers, the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Green Bay Packers. It ain't just Cam Ward, y'all. That whole offense is gone. And so how can we expect that they're going to be right back in the mix winning double-digit games and putting up the kinds of yards and points that they did a year ago? So to me, Miami is 100% worthy of holding down that position for who can challenge Clemson. But in the national picture, yeah, I would personally have a lot of those teams in the teens put ahead of where I think Miami will end up, which is just outside the top 10.
I'll say it if Chip won't say it. It's not. People are stupid, and it's AP voters are stupid. You know why? Because they're guilty of groupthink and they're guilty of brand bias. That's been my biggest problem, and people think it's only SEC. It's the brand on the side of the helmet. Miami is a storied, traditional program that had 5 national championships. A lot of these AP voters out in the West Coast and out, past the Mississippi River don't even pay attention to. So they see the Miami Hurricanes with a quarterback who's got a lot of attention. They're saying, yeah, let's throw him in there. I do think this is one where you get the brand favorability. Cam Ward goes number 1 overall in the draft. They're on the national stage a lot last year. Feels like they're about to punch through. So I do think this is one of the results of maybe stupid and a little bit lazy, too, doing their research. Not from the Cover 3 squad, though. That's where we do deep dives and give you better information than any AP voter would.
Chip gave us some more interesting notes as we go into the teens here. You have a non-SEC team at 14 that you believe is going to be ranked too low. That would be Illinois. And you have an SEC team at 15 that you believe is going to be ranked too high. That's South Carolina. We just saw those teams play in a bowl game, and Illinois won the Citrus Bowl. How far apart do you think those teams actually are?
See, I do think AP voters will do a move like this where they actually use the head-to-head result of a bowl game the year before to help them make a decision if they're trying to split hairs on each. I mean, it's just, but for Illinois, the only thing that they have to answer with this team is going to be who's going to step up at pass catcher, because you bring back your whole offensive line. You bring back Luke Altmaier, who is just one of the most experienced, savvy, and rapidly improving quarterbacks in the entire country. The defense should be sharp once again. So I think that Illinois is a team that in the context of the Big Ten and nationally is probably going to get a little bit overlooked because they're not used to that program backing up good season after good season. South Carolina is going to be riding, yes, some of the name brand, but also the star power of Lenoris Sellers. But much like Miami's pass catchers, there are a lot of significant players for the Gamecocks that are now playing on Sundays or trying to make teams right now. So I could see South Carolina 9-3 a year ago sort of being propped up by their quarterback and their record, and Illinois, just because of the lack of program success, maybe getting pushed down a little bit.
Oh, and I would love to see South Carolina ranked ahead of Illinois and see them potentially forget about what unfolded there, just to see Brett Bielema's response, because he has not been shy about calling out everyone across the landscape, including the SEC. I think if they are up there, and I think they should be, I think that's right where I would have them too, is because if you pay attention and look at their schedule, they don't play Penn State, they don't play Oregon. It's very manageable. Again, the non-conference isn't too tough. Little tricky road trip to Duke early this season. But in my part, it's because they have one of the best returning quarterbacks in the country. And Chris probably doesn't know this yet, because I don't know if he has cover 3 on his favorites. But we are a Luke Altmaier podcast after hearing from him and sitting down with him in Las Vegas at Big Ten Media Days. He's one of the more impressive young men you'll meet. I think he's going to take another step forward this season. Was one of the top quarterbacks in the Big Ten last season. Bringing him back is a huge reason. And it's based on a whole body of work. The Lenora Sellers' love out of South Carolina is from flashes of brilliance and what he could do with his legs. He's breaking in a new offensive coordinator. Barry Lunny's back at Illinois, so I think Illinois should be higher in South Carolina, but we'll have to wait and see what the voters think.
All right, one more here, and it's teams going back-to-back later on in the teens and into the 20s at 19 and 20. It's a couple of teams with head coaches on the hot seat. You have Billy Napier at Florida, 19. You have Oklahoma at number 20 in Chip Patterson's AP Top 25 prediction. Chip, why do you think this kind of ranking for both of these schools gives fans unrealistic expectations?
Yeah, it's bad news. It is a tough scene, because you are correct. Florida has one of the most talented rosters in the country, especially when we're extending this out to 20 or 25 teams. Oklahoma has boatloads of talent when you extend it out to 20, 25 teams. And as you are trying to sort through maybe the national title odds or the SEC odds, you are going to see their names come up next after the ones that we'd already put in this AP Top 25 ranking prediction. But when you've got that little number beside your team name, every single loss is heavier. And when you've got coaches like Billy Napier and Brent Venables that are trying to navigate literally some of the toughest schedules in the entire country, then it is very difficult to have extra expectations put on top of you. Now, you signed up to be the head coaches of national championship winning programs. You should be ready to carry those expectations. But as AP voters are just grasping for anything, trying to fill out spots 15 through 25 on their ballot, they're going to go to the SEC. They're going to follow the talent. And now it's going to set potentially unrealistic expectations for a couple of teams that at the end of the season might be fine, might be 8-4, but might not be inside the top 20.
Yeah, this goes back to the brand bias argument, and it kind of, I get it, right? I mean, at this point, when you're grasping for those teams, if you start pegging Oklahoma or Florida against teams from the Big 12 or ACC, you're like, surely they have to be better than them, because nobody sells hope and optimism like these teams in the SEC do. You know, DJ Lagway has shown tremendous flashes of potential. He could be great, but we haven't seen it yet, but we'll buy into it and say, yeah, they did beat those last couple, Ole Miss and LSU, on the back end of the season, so we'll carry that on, even though I'm a little bit concerned about DJ Lagway's injury issues. The Oklahoma one for a 6-7 team last year. This one is all about the John Mateer hope and optimism, and it makes sense. He was great last year at Washington State. He's had a good career. He comes with his offensive coordinator, but then it becomes, if you're picking teams, if you have brands up there, you're always going to favor the teams that have richer tradition. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's the way it should be done, but by default, that's what most humans will fall back to.
All right, that was fun looking ahead at what the AP poll might look like in a couple of weeks. As you look at the calendar right now, July the 30th, spin it forward 1 month, August 30th. That's going to be week 1, the first Saturday in college football. And Jacqueline, you're going to join these guys next.
Yeah, Chip and Danny are sticking around. Chris is going to add cover 3 to his favorites on his podcast.
It's already there.
Because it's not there. I don't know, that's what Danny said, but we're previewing the best matchups to look forward to in week 1. And we got to see how Danny's feeling about his Noles welcoming Bama to town in week 1. We'll talk more about the trash talking, all of that coming up on Spotlight. Back here on HQ Spotlight, as mentioned, just a month to go until week 1 of the college football season is officially here. And we have some great matchups to look forward to in said week 1. We already kind of touched on it, but right out the gate, we get a CFP rematch with Texas and Ohio State. Mike Norvell and company, Chris, trying to turn things around from their 2-win season in 2024, and they start that by welcoming Alabama to town, 13.5-point
Nick Saban anymore, so
they don't.
Castellanos is going to slice them up.
He is. We're going to ask Danny about that in just a minute. And on CBS, which opens up our Big Ten on CBS slate, Penn State taking on Nevada. And at first I was like, oh, we're putting totals on here. Now, no. They're favored by 45.5 points. We have the Battle of Death Valley and then, of course, Notre Dame in Miami to talk about as well. So let's welcome in some of the guys from the Cover 3 podcast. Welcome back in Chip Patterson and Danny Kanell. We're talking about those biggest Week 1 matchups, starting with Texas and Ohio State, a rematch of the CFP semis in 2024. And there's been some turnover for both teams, right? So, Chip, I'll come to you first. How different is this rematch going to feel when we think of the new rosters in place for both of these squads?
I think it's going to feel more different for Ohio State than it will feel for the Texas Longhorns. I think we've got enough players who were part of that really, really hard-fought game in Dallas in the semifinals last year than we necessarily have for Ohio State. Now, that's not to disrespect Sonny Styles or Carnell Tate or many of the players who are going to be stepping into that, or even Julian Sayin, who was a backup on that team and very much a part of the title run. But when you've got Arch Manning, who got to see a little bit of playing time and a couple starts in backup of Quinn Ewers, and when you've got the rest of that Texas team, I think they come in with a bigger chip on their shoulder, maybe a little bit of an edge, knowing that they were so close, making it to the semifinals for a second straight year. Now they get in the game. So for the new Ohio State players, I hope they are ready for all kinds of fire coming from the Longhorns, because if this is a ring game or a banner game, beware, because too much of thinking about last year will get you beat on this particular Saturday.
Oh, I cannot wait for this game. This game is going to be absolutely epic. The Arch Manning hype is off the charts, man. I don't even know if I can think of a player. Tim Tebow kind of comes to mind of somebody who came in with a lot of hype and hoopla early in his career, and then he takes over. I think you have to go back to like LeBron James, the amount of hype he had coming out of high school to the NBA, to compare the amount of attention that Arch Manning gets. The scenes of people that were there when he was at ACC Media Days were just, 20 deep, standing room only. The internet may not be able to handle this when he, especially if he throws a touchdown past the first play. So I can't wait to see what we're going to get. Then on the flip side, I agree with you. I think Ohio State has way more new moving parts. They've got 2 new coordinators, right? Chip Kelly off to the NFL. Brian Hartline takes over. Jim Knowles goes to Penn State, their defensive coordinator. They bring in Matt Patricia from the NFL. They've got a new quarterback in Julian Sayin that has all these expectations. And the one thing that's probably not getting talked about enough, they've got the best football player in the country on offense in Jeremiah Smith, and potentially the best defensive player in the country in Caleb Downs. So it's not like they're going to be devoid of talent, but we're going to find out a lot more about both these teams and the reactions to this game, whether who wins or who loses. The winner is going to be going to the title game, and the loser is going to be, oh, this season is done. I just cannot wait for the game and the reactions to it.
Yeah, nothing we love more than just like Week 1 overreaction, already counting out teams, and then they're going to be out of the playoff after Week 1. We love it. Let's go to Bama and FSU, because FSU quarterback Thomas Castellanos is already stirring the pot in typical FSU quarterback fashion. He's saying, y'all don't have Nick Saban. He doubled down on that. And then Mike Norvell out at ACC Media Days is like fired up and is just like preaching there at the podium. Danny, I have a feeling that you like the trash talk that's coming from your quarterback, right?
Ooh, I don't know, Jacqueline.
Really?
I would have preferred he came in quiet. Like Coach Bowden and BMAC was on the set with me in Vegas, and we did a little segment. We were asked about this game, and I brought that up, and BMAC was like, yes. Like Coach Bowden used to tell us in the locker room, don't listen to what I say because I'm going to make it sound like we don't have a chance, and I'm going to make it sound like the other team is better than us. But it was mind games. He was trying to do a Jedi mind trick to get the other team to fall asleep and think all they had to do was show up. Now you got Tommy Castellanos taking the other, attack, and that's just go on the offensive, which I don't understand why you would kick a hornet's nest. Like, this Alabama team is already salty because of the way year 1 unfolded to Kalen DeBoer. Now you kind of wake them up when potentially they could have come in too cocky. I don't love it, but hey, if it's who he is, it's who he is. If that's the way you've always gone about your business, was talking big game, I'm okay with it, but there's one thing. You have to back it up. He's got to back it up on the field. And, oh, man, I tell you, I'm a little bit nervous about this when that line keeps creeping up. It's almost over 2 touchdowns. Are you kidding me? I think it was at a touchdown or 7.5 when it opened. We've had almost a full touchdown of movement. It's getting me a little bit nervous, and I know Damian Harris, my colleague on the pregame show, he's going to want some side action. This might be the first time in history I've wanted points when we're doing picks, but it is going to be a very fun atmosphere in Tallahassee, and we'll see if they can pull off the upset.
Yeah, I keep thinking about Tim Keenum. I keep thinking about LT Overton, Deontay Lawson. This Alabama defensive front is old and big, and now you've made them angry. Like, I look at this game, and we've got literally a month to throw out all kinds of picks. I see something that might be a little bit more of an old school Saban era boa constrictor, that you go into a hostile territory, you fire up that defensive front, and you just point to Thomas Castellanos and remind him all the trash he talked, and you just let your defense go win. Run the ball with Jam Miller, couple of shot plays to Ryan Williams. I mean, Alabama might be in a position with the way they're built defensively to go and win this game by only scoring 28, 30 points, maybe even 24. And so I think that for Thomas Castellanos, you need to be ready to use all of your escapability, which he has a lot of good athleticism, making plays with his feet, because I don't know if Florida State along the offensive front is as gelled, cohesive, and developed enough to be able to handle what, for my money, is one of the toughest defensive fronts in the entire country.
And we know Damian Harris loves a good on-camera bet, so maybe we can, stir something up ahead of week 1 between Danny and Damian. Next up, Penn State hosting Nevada to kick off our Big Ten on CBS slate, 45.5-point favorites. That's absolutely crazy. But Penn State, they are one of the few Big Ten teams that are returning their starting quarterback in Drew Aller. So I guess the question here, DK, do they have enough weapons for Drew Aller to throw the ball to? Does that concern you at all?
No, I mean, I think it's probably a concern, especially considering that playoff game against Notre Dame. He did not complete a pass to a wide receiver, and now he's without Tyler Warren, who was his best weapon last year. But that's the best news about this schedule, and one of the reasons I think Penn State is probably the most sure thing to make the college football playoff. I mean, their non-conference is a joke. They're going to be heavy favored not only in this opener, but their first 3 games. They only play Oregon and Ohio State, as far as the big gauntlet, the other big teams in the Big Ten. So I think this is a time where they can use it like the preseason. Let's find out what a transfer like Trevor Pena from Syracuse is about. Some of those other transfer wide receivers they added to them. But I would expect this to be almost a stat padding game, preseason style. Get them in, get them out by halftime, and start getting you kind of managing your reps for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm expecting Ethan Grunkenmeyer. That'd be the backup quarterback. For those not keeping track, I think that we've got Drew Aller in sweats for the third quarter, doing some stretches, a lot of clapping right here. Look, Penn State's got about 7 opponents where they can maybe hand the ball off and not throw it and be able to win the football game. You've got Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, and this kind of offensive line. I think they're just going to overwhelm them. And for Drew Aller, I am not going to overreact at all until the Ohio State game, when they will need him to take them over the top. For this is just going to be a good chance to develop the backups.
Yeah, so Drew Aller, big morale guy on the sideline after halftime in this game in week 1. Next up, LSU and Clemson, where both of these quarterbacks are in those early Heisman conversations. On the LSU side of things, they haven't won a season opener under Brian Kelly. So, Chip, how important is it for them to get off to a good start here when you consider that?
Oh, absolutely huge. I mean, this is a narrative that Brian Kelly said has reached the point that they're putting up signage in the weight room, and he's getting so frustrated with the inability to get it done to start the year. But there's also huge questions that LSU needs to answer if we're going to look at them as a serious CFP contender. They just lost 2 tackles to the NFL. Well, here comes a Clemson defensive line that's loaded with NFL talent. Are the backups ready to go? LSU's defense has been a problem at times, and they've really been working to try to make sure that group takes a step forward. Well, here comes a Clemson offense that's loaded up with NFL talent. And for the Clemson Tigers, man, what an opportunity for you to be able to announce your presence in the national conversation in a way that you were forgotten because of how you played in the opener against Georgia. So all the demons from last year's loss against Georgia for Clemson, and LSU trying to shed something that has haunted them for multiple years over. Just maybe one of my favorite narrative games between two super talented teams.
All right, finally, let's get to Notre Dame in Miami. It's the first time these teams are facing off since 2017. So Notre Dame fresh off of that title loss to Ohio State. And Danny, I know you talked a lot about the brand and but they still have Carson Beck. Do you think this is actually going to be a tall task for Notre Dame here in week one, or is it kind of smoke and mirrors down there in Coral Gables?
Oh no, this is gonna be a bloodbath. Like, this is gonna be a great game. I mean, Notre Dame, I feel like people always sleep on them this time of year because they don't attend a conference media days because they're not a member of a conference. They feel like they're kind of an afterthought. We've already talked about Miami and what they bring to the table, and yet Marcus Freeman has just churned out a 10-win team almost every season since he's been there. Yes, there have been some disappointing losses, but he does get his team ready to go. And oh, by the way, Jeremiah Love, their running back, might be one of the best running backs in the country. Last year, they went on the road early to Texas A&M, win that game. So I feel like this is going to be a tougher game for Miami, who I think it means more to Miami because the way their schedule sets up. They play Florida State and Florida as well early in the season. They kind of need this game to carry on some positive momentum from the offseason. Notre Dame can kind of figure it out as they go, even if they lose this game. So I think this one absolutely is going to live up to the billing, right on par with these other games we're talking about.
Carson Beck, 2-0 in his career as an underdog. We'll see if he can make it 3-0. Chip and DK, we appreciate it as we look ahead to week one of the college football season. You can hear the guys on the Cover 3 podcast. They did hold a Heisman draft on the pod, and Danny picked Cade Klubnik first, and Chip went with Garrett Nussmeier.
Danny's really high on Clemson.
And again, Clemson, LSU facing off in week one. You can download, follow, and listen wherever you find your favorite pods, or you can watch right now by scanning that QR code on your screen.